I'm Mary Amy, and this is Signs of Light on Twitch TV. And I am so happy that you've joined us today. It's Thursday, it's 2:06, and I'm running late, oh my gosh. But it's the weekend. It's 2:06 in New York, coming live. So on today's show, I'm excited that we have my friend, a Bigfoot investigator from the BFRO, which is the Bigfoot Field Organization. He's coming from North Carolina. He's going to be calling in. He called and then I said not yet. And his name's Reles, and he has spoken at conferences and podcasts. Let me give you a disclaimer before I move on. I'm not a medical professional. I give helpful tips to personal serenity and inner peace. My holistic modalities include: I'm an intuitive wisdom coach, a Reiki master, and an ordained minister. So let me remind you, bright light shines on us. Every thought is very powerful, and we are all part of a whole. My pain is your pain, and your pain is mine. Karma is a cycle of cause and effect. Now, the sacred knowledge I impart on you is to connect to a light source, engage with nature, and record your sleeping dreams for the universe to guide you on your ultimate destiny. I'm just trying to catch up here. Okay, so Rick, let me tell you about him because he's going to give us a call any minute. He is coming from, I believe, North Carolina, and he has spoken at conferences. This is Rick, and I also have him on the board over here. And conferences and podcasts. So how did this all happen for him? How did he get so excited and interested in Bigfoot? And he was in 2010 driving across northern Wisconsin with a business associate, and he encountered Sasquatch crossing the road. So Rick became enamored with the Bigfoot culture. He has led expeditions and encounters to Bigfoot sightings. He's provided information to Finding Bigfoot Show, and he wrote a field guide on Bigfoot stick structures and has had an A, B, and C interaction with Bigfoot, which will have him kind of sum up for you what exactly that is. And I know it involves in how much, what is that? Is it, the closeness of the encounter, what happens? So it's rated. It's a level of A, B, or C. He is also a partner with a company. It's his brand, I Know Squatch, which I have a beanie, if you can see, right there. It's very cool. And I have a t-shirt which has this emblem, this brand, across the front, which I couldn't find it. And I'll show it next week. But they have t-shirts, hats, and stickers. Here's a little Sasquatch sticker. And you can find that on Etsy page. So it's I Know Squatch, which I will put in the chat. If you have any questions when he comes on, I'd love you to ask. And so who is Bigfoot exactly? Bigfoot is the hairy man known by the Native Americans, 60 terms for Sasquatch. He's seen as a supernatural or spiritual being. It's good luck to see him and if his energy touches you, according to Native Americans. This 6, 8, and 10-foot, 500 to 1,000-pound creature seen in the infamous Patterson and Gimlin 59-second video, which I have it on a poster board right here. You can see, which I'll keep out. And so he's a walking upright ape-like being with dark brown, black, reddish fur. His hair on his head is usually longer. Elusive, living in the wilderness that vanishes amid large footprints as evidence. Are these paranormal events? Bigfoot watches us from afar, never allowing us to get ever too close, and mimics us. Okay, so he's going to be calling. I guess what I'll do is I'll put this up here for now so that everyone can see that, right? Bigfoot. It's too far away, I feel like. I'll just hold it. So Rick's going to be calling, and you can go like this. Everyone can see that, right? I'll just hold it somehow because it used to be over here, but now I have my followers. Speaking of followers, I want to say thank you. I could do that. That works. Speaking of followers, there he is. Rick! Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, I'm so sorry. I was trying to catch up. You know, I want to post so we get more people watching on the Instagram and the Facebook. And so I give, you know, a little promo for what we're doing. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I showed your beanie because I have the beanie and I have the t-shirt somewhere, which I have to pull out of my drawer, from your brand, which I love. I Know Squash.
Yes, thank you.
And I also have your field guide.
Mm-hmm.
And so the last time we spoke, you were off on, I believe you were headed to some upcoming events. You want to tell us what's been going on lately with you and Bigfoot?
Yeah, actually, over the past 6 weeks or so, 8 weeks, there's a lot of conferences, which is good because during COVID, pretty much everything was shut down. I think there was only one last year, but they've opened up again. I was at one in Virginia, up near Staunton, Virginia, that was put on by ECBRO, ECBRO, which is a Virginia Bigfoot organization. And then 3 weeks ago or so, I was down in Lakeland, Florida, and again, vending and doing some podcasts and some local things. But that was the first annual Florida Bigfoot festival. It was very, very well attended. Lakeland's about an hour from Orlando, about an hour from Tampa, and it was very, very well attended. So I think it's the first time they did something that people came from all over the state, very, very interested in the topic. They had a great speaker lineup. From Finding Bigfoot, they had Cliff Barrickman and Bobo Fay both there, and so that was good. And this past weekend, I was in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. They had, I think this is the third one that they've done. They do one a year there in Gatlinburg, and it's the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival. Their headlines, and they sold out, and then added 400 tickets and sold all them. And so I think they had 2,000 people at that, and David Polides was the lead speaker for that. Ron Moorhead was there too. So if any of your followers, listeners know those are two big names in Bigfoot research historically. So I'm vending and also catching some of what they say, and I'll tell you, the rooms are full. People are so interested in this topic. It's genuinely interested, want to learn.
Did you learn anything that you didn't know about Bigfoot? Because, you have had many experiences. Is this just all old news to you, or are you hearing new information?
That's a very, very good observation and or question. So I appreciate that, because you can always learn about this. Cliff Barrickman's a good friend, and he's also a customer. I sell him some stickers and things for his museum out Oregon. I got to get out and see that, but he's got a museum off and running out there, so that's nice. But he'll always say to me, this is a gift that keeps on giving. And Bigfoot is, because there's so much we don't know about it. I was kind of musing over this recently. If you ask people anywhere in the United States, Canada, places where Bigfoot, or, well, it's known by other things, China, Eastern Europe, Wendigo, Yeren, different names that it has around it. But people, if you bring it up, they know what it is. If you showed them a picture, they would know what it is. Because people can identify with this thing. There's a lot of stories. There's been a lot of focus on it. And yet, it's still a cryptid. It is still, not a defined species, a defined forest creature, if you will. So there's always more to learn. And, and listening to some of the different speakers and their approach, they're challenging folks in the U.S. They keep saying things like, we've got a lot of amateur researchers, we've got a lot of folks doing research on their own, but there's not, at least that we know about, there's not official, whether it's government or military, state-led official research on this that acknowledges the existence. which is crazy. I mean, even in the United States, we have areas that have laws where you can't hunt them, and that Park Services put up signs about Bigfoot in the area or Sasquatch in the area. Watch out, whether it's in Pacific Northwest or I've heard of them in states, Texas, Wisconsin, Southeast states. So my point is, people acknowledge it. There's more to learn about it. People kind of know what it is, but it's still not official.
Are you aware, in some form, that they do know the government, and they're? I mean, who's putting up the signs? If they're official signs saying don't hunt Bigfoot, who's putting up a sign for that?
I think you get some local folks who do that. Whether it's Park Service or local county type laws, those type. You get some things that way, but there's not official U.S. Forest Service. There's nothing like that. Do I think they know? Sure. I mean, look at the stories. Look at the stories that are online. Look at the Finding Bigfoot show. They did it. Their formula was great because they used the town hall, but they had witnesses highlighted. So they'd go to a different state and they'd hold a town hall and they'd bring in a huge room full of witnesses, have them talk about their stories, and people had stories of sightings. A lot they would go check them out and find the real ones, but people have seen this thing. People know about this. Even in folklore, we all know what a boogeyman is. We've heard of that historically, right? Boogeyman or wild man in the woods. You've heard that kind of thing growing up. What the heck do you think that is? So, that's common knowledge that there's something in the woods like this, but it's not. It's common knowledge, but it's not official, which is the thing. So you get a lot of the speakers that you see getting up talk about, let's bring forward. We have better technology. If you can bring forward better evidence, all evidence is good. There's a lot of discussion about evidence versus proof, and there's discussion about what would, always a lot of these discussions, even the speaker panels at these conferences. A lot of times people will say, well, where's the body? When do we get a body? And what's the quest to get a body? And bring it back, that'll constitute proof, and so you get into that kind of discussion. But I'm noticing, though, over the years, where there's a lot of discussion about, is it an ape or a primate, or is it something else, and that seems to be fading away. Not hearing as much about that. It seems like more of it as well, it's out there and it's got primate characteristics, but it's got human behaviors.
I was speaking to someone in the last. I was speaking. Can you hear me or no?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know if I was talking over you. It's like you went in and out for a minute. So no, it's my fault. It's technology. I was speaking to someone the other day, and I know we've spoken about the mystical quality of Bigfoot and how the footprints lead to nowhere. There's footprints and then there's just no more footprints. And is it possible that it's paranormal and or does it have some kind of way to cloak itself so it's invisible? And I know that sounds like sci-fi, but what is the explanation for this?
Well, that's the thing. So it does have characteristics that are outside of normal. And that's the definition of paranormal. So anything that's outside of normal, or what we could, gather scientifically, catalog, and we know is paranormal. So it does have, you said mystical, it's a good word. It has paranormal aspects to it. You mentioned those steps going to nowhere. There are witness reports of that sort of thing. I've seen it. I've seen steps and then they stop. I've seen a single step show up in the middle of a trail in the woods after we've been in an area and coming back, and I can't figure out how it even got there. Like, what did they leap out of the sky, put one footprint down, and then go? But it's definitely a Bigfoot footprint. So I don't. They do these things that are crazy. You get reports where, like in the Predator movie, it shimmers, or it's now you see it, now you don't. There's been a lot of discussion about the hair follicles over the last couple of years, and you can see some evidence of that online. And then you turn the hair follicle one way, you can see that it looks brown or black, and turn it another way, and it becomes transparent, kind of thing. So, some of the discussion is about that.
Have you personally seen a hair follicle? Have you had one in your possession?
Yes, I've seen them.
And where do they go? Do they get sent into a lab?
They're gathered and sent sometimes. Some of it has been used over the years, and gathering for DNA evidence type of thing. The whole Melba Ketchum study that took place, years ago, and you're familiar with that.
I am. The vet.
A lot of hair follicles sent into that. A lot.
I think it was 122 samples.
Yeah.
That's what I read somewhere. Yeah, and then they came back and said that it was deer hair, deer fur.
Yeah, well, and then they invalidated the study and said that she jumped the gun when was talking about the results before getting peer review. So that was a convenient way to get out of it. But some of the people that supplied those, the evidence there, whether it was skin or hair follicles or fecal matter, that sort of thing. People like Scott Carpenter, he's a good friend of mine, wrote a lot of books. He's excellent. David Paulides, I mentioned him, he supplied things from Tom Kilburn and the Hooper Project. So I think the inputs were valid, and the results were they were. The results said 95% human DNA and 5% unidentified, so nobody knew what to do with that.
How much was the percentage of unidentified? What did you say? 25%?
5.
Oh, 5%.
Yeah. So, tell you a good book. So, your folks out there want to read Truth Denied.
Truth Denied?
Which is the Sasquatch DNA study.
Okay, I'm going to write that in the Truth Denied.
And Scott Carpenter put it together, but it's a good breakdown of everything that went into that study with Dr. Ketchum.
Okay. That's good to know.
And some of the reports that came out of Sasquatch is a human hybrid species.
Really?
Yep. And there's the MT DNA is human, new DNA is unknown. So I'm just looking at that right in the book. So that's in there. It talks about it. All the details are in there for any of your followers that are really statistically oriented, scientific method oriented. I would say that's probably one of the best books to take a look at.
Almost every time that I speak of Bigfoot or to cover this topic, I share a picture from the famous footage from 1967 in Bluff Creek by Patterson and Gimlin. Has there been any other footage that you know about that has had authenticity like that?
I don't think there's any that has had the scrutiny
right.
that. There's various things online, which is always curious too. They're up and on sites. You could Google top 10 Bigfoot videos, and you get different ones. Then you pull them up, and then you'll see maybe of 10, 3 of them show up, and the other 7 are taken down. And so that goes on all the time. You've probably seen that researching it. It's fascinating. I don't know why.
Right.
But there are some good ones. I'd be lacking. I'd have to go pull it up right now and kind of go through the one where the kids are fathers on the ATV crossing the creek, and the one crosses the creek behind them. I think it was in Kentucky. That's a good one. There's was it Independence there, the one that kind of ran across the field. The family saw. There's that group of Boy Scouts saw one up on a hill out in Oregon, there in Washington. So there are good ones.
There are good. They're scary to me. Because I can feel the energy, like, oh my gosh, run away. Because I'm fascinated, and yes, I would love to have a Bigfoot, sighting encounter. However, if I'm in that moment and I understand that their language is a certain low vibration, low decibel, and it puts you into this flight or fright, or what is it, fight or flight, where you don't, where your body reacts a certain way and you don't know why, and it kind of, so I don't know what it would do to me, but I'm so curious, and it's in my bucket list of things to do for sure in the future.
Right. If you want to talk a little bit about that, we call it zapping. I think we touched on that on one other discussion before, but it doesn't. If they want you to leave an area and you're around, and they give you that fight or flight feeling,
right?
It's infrasound. It's a low frequency vibration. It's not necessarily talking. Sometimes it's inaudible, or you can pick it up with a recorder. Sometimes it's like a low hum, but you do get this feeling inside. They say infrasound which actually is used. Military uses it for crowd control. You can use that because it makes your internal organs vibrate, including your brain, and it makes you uncomfortable, and then you want to leave. But it does give you fight or flight. Being around Bigfoot does not mean you're going to have that. If they want to interact, if they want to play, and you're around, and you play, everything's fine. But they don't want you in an area for a particular reason, and they do, employ using it for sound or zapping. You'll know it. It's like a wave. Comes right over. I've walked into it it felt like a wall. I've had it hit me, stop me in my tracks. I didn't feel like I could go any further. So it can feel like a heavy weight on your shoulders. It can feel like electricity. I've seen people get nauseous from it. I've seen people just get right down on their hands and knees. I've seen people cry. So it's not good. But if they're doing that, you got to get out of the area. It means they don't want you around.
So you have a physical reaction to it. It's not even mental. It's that your body shuts down in some way.
Yes.
By the zapping.
Yes.
Wow.
So my best way of dealing with it, because I've been in that situation many times, is, investigators that have been around it, we kind of will work with each other if you're to say, where's it coming from? Because sometimes it's pitch black, you can't figure out where. And if you can tell where it's coming from, in the woods, the best thing to do is face that area of the woods if it's above you, and just talk to them. Just say, all right, we shouldn't be here. You don't have to do that. Please turn it off. Let us go. We mean nothing. We're just curious about you. That's why we're out in the woods trying to observe you and understand you don't want us here. We're going to go. And honestly, Mary, I've seen it turn off like a faucet.
Really? They understand.
Yeah, I think they do. I think they understand intent. I think they understand if you, in your mind, picture something. They understand emotion. And they observe humans all the time. Why can't they understand some of our language? So, but they do. That does seem to work. I was with a group once in the UP of Michigan years ago. There were 4 of us. The one guy that was with us, it had to be 1 in the morning. It was cold. It was October. We were in an area. He was getting zapped. And I said, it was like he walked into it. He was the biggest guy in our group of the 4 of us, 2 women, myself, and him. And all of a sudden, it was his first expedition. And he started to, just seize up. I can't walk. And I was with him. Where's it coming from? He said, I think to the right. I just sense it's from the right. So I started asking him some questions quick. And I said, you weren't yelling at the woods? You weren't throwing rocks in there? No, I wasn't doing it. Okay. And it just occurred to me. I said, are you a hunter? And he said, yeah. I said, do you have a gun now on you? He said, no, I don't. I said, all right, why don't you stop? So I started talking to the woods where he's coming from. I said, look, he's a hunter, and he's not hunting now. He's just with us, trying to observe you. We mean no ill intent.
Wow.
And I'm talking. And all of a sudden, he says, it's gone away. It just like it turned right off. Everything was fine, and we turned and walked away. But it's kind of like they identified, all right, he's the alpha male in the group, and he's a hunter, we can tell, and we're going to make him uncomfortable. Right. But there's other 3 of us, and we're fine.
So they're telepathic.
And then that starts to get weird, and how do you know that, and all that kind of thing. But I would say there's an ability they have to understand intent, and or envision or understand what you're thinking, feeling, expressing. If it's mental before it's vocal, I believe that they can perceive that. So
they can, and what they're doing where they're zapping you, it's an energy. You think, what kind, is it an electromagnetic energy field? Is it, it's affecting your senses, so.
Right. Well, it's, you can pick it up, as I said, and record. We've had recorders, and you can record, and then later see this like low frequency hum, so it does show up. You can't necessarily hear it, but boy, you can feel it. It hits you when they deploy it. It's not a gradual thing like they're slowly turning the volume up. It hits you, and I've had it where you're walking and you walk like into a wall of electricity. It feels electrical, or all of a sudden it's just a heavy pressure on your head or your shoulders. It's crazy. So I'm not sure how they do it. I've heard people describe it acutely, like it felt like a bullet went through them on their shoulder or on their leg.
Wow.
So explain that and tell me how that all fits physical characteristics of species we know. So back to your mystical or your paranormal stuff. There are things that associate with these that are beyond what we know, you know, in normal physical realm.
So they're powerful creatures in some regards, because as humans, they are deciding how it's going to play out, these creatures. If you can't move forward, you can't physically move, and then you're sick over it. I always speak of the fact that there's at least 60 terms for Sasquatch according to Native American Indians. Have you had any experiences speaking to Native Americans or in the area of a tribe now, that you know any kind of myths that they speak of Sasquatch?
Yes, that's a great question too. I like talking with you, Mary. You always
It's because I'm fascinated, so I'm like really digging, so I know.
That's a very, very good question. So I will give you a couple of reflections on that. It's very, because I like talking. I do some podcasts. I'm pretty selective about who I talk with, but generally, you want to get the right questions. You want to get insightful questions. You always do your homework, and you're involved. I have a couple of questions for you on this too. That's a very good question. So let me give you a couple of Native American, or a couple of comments on that relative to your question. Number one, so I'm a BFRO investigator, and I've been doing that for a number of years too. And right now I pick up reports, within 100 miles or so of North Carolina, Western North Carolina. I was on one last night with a guy who worked for a landscaping company, had trees being pushed down in the woods and the properties for them. So crazy. But one of the things I found over the years talking with witnesses is many times, one of my questions, standard questions when I review the report and try to debunk and make sure, a lot of times they're hoaxes and things, but if you get something that's legit, I'll say, do you have Native American lineage or heritage in your blood? And more often than not, they do.
Really?
So why Bigfoot or why Sasquatch have a tendency of showing themselves, interacting, or being around people of Native American descent, more so than others, is beyond me, but it's a truism. And it seems, I get a lot of witness reports where they have that kind of background, so figure that one out.
That's interesting.
So number one. Number two, I'll give you another one. I have a good friend who's, I won't give his name out, but he's Lakota Sioux. He and his wife, and I see him at some shows and things. We always reflect. He's a mentor for me on some things when it comes to more spiritual. I'll talk to him. But one of the things he always tells me about Bigfoot, and people don't know this, Rick, but he always makes this point. He said, first of all, they're very social. They're always in groups and familial. He said they're always in families. They have a society, and there are as many different ones across North America as there are different tribes of Native American Indians. He said they are different, and they are in groups, and that's how they live, congregate, aggregate, and they're out there all over the place in the forest and in groups, and they're all very different. And that's fascinating to me, because we have a tendency to think, well, it's one big monster that lives on the West Coast. So, but no, he always makes the point that they have differences, just like all the Native American tribes have differences.
Wow. Now I'm just thinking, I keep going back in my mind, is Bigfoot really an alien? Because they just come in and out. Are they coming from portals? Or am I going to see a spaceship with a Bigfoot riding the spacecraft? I don't know. I think because I'm in all of these different myths and legends and real and phenomenon, I'm like mixing it up. But there's some of it is crossing over, and it's the same. The paranormal and the energy and the telepathy. When you've done these encounters, when was the last time you did one of your encounters? And I want to share with everybody that Rick does these, they're like 3 to 5 days, or how many days are these Bigfoot encounters?
So we'll do the BFRO. If you go to BFRO.net and you take a look, the BFRO posts expeditions. And there's different ones around the country in Canada, and anywhere from 6, 8, 10, 12 a year, depending. I did one in the spring, and I've been on, I think, 3 this year. I ran one in the spring in the mountains in South Carolina. And I'm looking at my schedule for another one. I may not get another one in this year, but probably 3 in the first quarter of next year in different places. Maybe in Florida I'll be involved in. Certainly one probably in North Carolina, and then maybe North Georgia. We'll see where the next one is. But I'm involved in planning right now on a few different ones. But that's the best. Your followers, your listeners can check out, stay in touch on the BFRO site, and you'll see there's a section on there that speaks to expeditions and when they're going to be. I've been planning on a few different ones, but there's usually in the fall there'll be 4 or 5 of them, 6 of them, and then the spring and fall are when you see the most of these things. So you'll see where they are. I try to attend a few and then help run a couple, but I want to get on 4 to 6 a year outside of my own, getting out doing my own research, getting out some spots in the woods. But yeah, that's what they are. They run Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So people arrive on a Thursday, depart on a Sunday. And scouting, nighttime, night hikes, sort of thing. All that goes into, finding the best places to put yourself in a position to have an encounter, as you said, or an encounter. And you get to the point now where sometimes we're out, we hear a loud knock, we come back, say, not much happened, and it's hard to realize, we got people with us that never get out in the woods, that are standing in the middle of the woods at 2 in the morning, and 30 yards in the woods, something is knocking as loud as it can, or making a loud whoop noise at them, and that's freaky. So, sometimes we take for granted some of the behaviors and things that we have gotten to, be around with these over the years. But we do daytime scouting, get out at night, debrief in the mornings, go over everything. Typically, there's a Facebook site set up with the expedition. We share any insights, things we learn after. But we'll go into teams at night. Teams are usually about 6 people to a group. And there's a team leader, someone who records things. We go to different areas, so we're not stepping on top of each other, you know what I mean? So we split up at night and get out. But it's fun. It can be scary, to your point earlier. It can be pleasant. It can be takes you out of your element. But it can be daunting also.
I mean, you're out in the middle of pitch black, and you have the proper lighting, right? It's a red light. It's not a white light.
Right. And
it's pitch black, and then you hear these sounds, and then you go to sleep in that camp area that you've heard these sounds. That's scary.
Well, it depends on where we are. I've been in some remote campsite areas where you're miles from anything, and lucky if you have a pit toilet kind of thing, no running water for 4 days, and yeah, they'll come around. I've had routinely these things that, they'll come into campsites. Typically it's between 3 and 5 in the morning, and open coolers, go through things, touch the outside of a tent. They'll do things like that sometimes, but you get what you get with these. If you're out, we'll have a base camp area sometimes, and we'll maybe drive to areas 20 minutes in any direction, but and we typically go in areas that have had activity historically, got reports on. But you want to, if you're out, we do provocation to maybe bring them around. We'll do whoops or whistles and maybe light knocks, things like that. Some different colored lights will bring them around. But if they're around, you got to interact with them on their terms. If they do a whistle, it's okay to whistle back. If they do a whoop, it's okay to whoop back. You don't want to be out there antagonizing them. Maybe, to my Native American friend's point, maybe you're around a group that's a family. What's the last thing, a family would want, your family would want if somebody just showed up in your living room, start banging on pots and pans and, turn lights on and off and yelling and screaming? People, you got to treat them with respect. And if they do come around, and you'll know it, try talking to them. Act like a hiker, not like a hunter. Don't be afraid to build a fire, sit out in the woods somewhere and see if they come around. If they come around and they're interested, it's crazy. They'll peek around trees, they toss light pebbles out in front of you. It doesn't mean that, everybody's going to get zapped and feel uncomfortable and throw up. It doesn't work that way. But if they don't want you there, you leave. But if they want to interact, that's when it's really fun. I mean, there's times when you can have almost a dialogue with them.
And if you say something, it seems like they understand what you're saying out loud.
sometimes it does, and it's uncanny, and it's crazy. They'll do things. So this is going to sound great. They'll do crazy. You're out there, and maybe they're around. You got a group of 5 people. You're sitting in a 2-track, 3rd-track out in the woods, 2 miles from anything, and out in the middle of the woods, miles from a campground. There's a creek going by because they follow the waterways. You're there, but they're around. Maybe there's 3 of them around. You can tell, and they're tossing pebbles back and forth over your head. They do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do things like maybe toss them back. You do a light knock, they do a knockback. You can do a whistle or a whoop kind of thing, and you get one back. And that's good. That's when it's playful.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, if they don't want you there anymore, all of a sudden you start to get an uneasy feeling or a loud knock, meaning time to go. You can ask them, hey, do you want us to leave?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell you. It's crazy. But you can do things they'll mimic, too. I have a lot of luck with a harmonica, so I'm a musician, but I play some harmonica sometimes when I'm out in the woods, and sometimes they'll mimic the sound and you hear it back. Now, that's crazy.
They mimic back the sound of the harmonica?
Yes, sometimes they do. I was on one in Kentucky where they were following us down the trail, and they were doing it. They had done it when we were back in the woods. We had a big group, 8 or 10 of us, and along the way, on the way back, they were paralleling us in the woods, and they were mimicking the sound. Got all the way back to the trailhead, and we were getting ready to get in the vehicles, and someone said, Rick, do it again, just play some more. I did it. I played some more harmonica, and we stopped and listened, and they did it right back. All of a sudden, they were making harmonica sounds at the trailhead right back.
When you say they're paralleling you, what's the distance? And that you're aware of, you know it because of the sounds you hear? I mean, they're big creatures, so do they make a lot of noise when they're moving and they're traveling?
So yes, if they want to. If they want to be quiet, I mean, it's uncanny how quiet they can be. I've had them sneak right up on you. But if they're paralleling you and you're in a group, one of the things we'll do is we'll count down and everybody stop at once. So we're walking, we'll say, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and everybody stops. And sometimes you can hear the steps then 1, 2, because they continue. They don't know you're stopping then at a count. And then you'll hear the bipedal steps. But you can hear them alongside of you. They will move when you move. They typically won't move if it's quiet, unless they're throwing a tantrum. If they want you in an area or something. I was with a group once in North Georgia, and we were up on a hill that was wooded, and we had strung a light up over an area above where we had, some tarps and things, and people were sleeping out under the stars. And they were around, and we could hear them, and they weren't happy that light was strung up above everything. And we're standing talking, all of a sudden one of them just got tired of observing us and watching the light, started to tear trees apart and go up a hill. And it was just a minute and a half of just throwing a tantrum, tearing trees down and stomping away. So my point is, if they want to be quiet, they will. If they're paralleling you, typically they are. They make light steps, but if they want, they want them to throw a fit, a hissy fit, they'll do that too.
I mentioned earlier, I've spoken before about your field guide, and I have a copy of it here. And I'm curious what your perception is for these tree structures, these stick structures. Are these markers? Is this a language? It's obviously not a place for them to be safe because they're not, it's more or less like symbols of something. What do you think they are?
I think what I think is that they have meaning to other Bigfoots. So I think it's Bigfoots communicating with each other more so than communicating with us. That'd be number one. So number two, I think they're markers or boundary markers for each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're necessarily doing it for us. We'll see one of them see an X in the woods, and we'll say, "Oh, that means X. Get out of here" for us, because we're putting over the top of it our belief system on things, and that's not necessarily the case.
So you think it's a communication to other Bigfoots? Like,
Yes.
this is where I live, you stay out of here, or this is the way to go, or I'm over here, or something. I mean,
Yes.
I know it's obviously hypothetical, but the fact that you've done so much as to create this guide means that you have your own philosophy about it, or understanding. I mean, this is a lot.
And along those lines, I believe they're a way of communicating with each other. It's a symbol or syllabic type language. A lot of times, like the X matches up with some of the ones that are Native American, so that often means a presence or a male presence. An asterisk means things that are more, I want to say it's more positive. An asterisk left is more decorative, positive. I've seen small ones, big ones. I don't think there's a negative meaning behind that. The ones where they snap it or they twist off and it looks like an upside down check mark. So they'll take a tree and they'll twist it. It'll be up 7-8 feet. I've seen those, 1, 2, 3 in a row right next to each other, typically in a higher area. And I think those have something to do with a sentry or a lookout, but it's a marker for them. So I believe these things have meaning for each other, not necessarily for us. I mean, they can communicate with us lots of other ways if they want to. And so I don't believe these things are necessarily directed at us. One of the things in the book that I have on page 17, I added some of these, but I put in what I call leaners or walking sticks. But they'll take sticks and they'll strip all the side branches off them and the bark typically, and they'll lean them in a tree where a tree bifurcates, in the middle and splits, so the limbs, branches go. The two stems of the tree come out of the ground, go up two ways. They'll put them right in the center there. And a lot of times you see 3 of them, or 4 of them, or 5 of them. I think that has a clan designation, or it's about how many Bigfoots are resident to that area. So why would they lean these walking sticks in an area like that out in the woods? And they'll do this. I mean, there's nowhere near a trail, and it's not a people thing. They'll show up sometimes. These things show up over time, and then they take them down sometimes too. So I think they have meaning for each other.
I'm fascinated that you figured all that out, because you can tell what looks like positive and what looks like negative, or they're upset, or like you just said, they're for other, their symbol or communication to a Bigfoot. That's amazing that you figured that out.
Well, yeah, and so we have this. The X is the one that I probably focus on. We, as humans, we see an X, and that means don't pass go, that kind of thing. Don't go past. Why do we think that is what they think? That's crazy. In Cherokee, an X is a symbol of friendship. Okay. So I have a section in the back. I've expanded and added some. It's called ground glyphs. So I added this. So there's different types. There's an X type. There's a Y type. There's an F, as in fire truck type. There's a triangle type. They do an asterisk too on the ground, where they'll use 3 or more. And sometimes they use stones, like in the F, they'll put stones in the pocket of the F. I don't know what all those things mean, but they look like symbols or syllabic. They're trying to communicate. I've got a guy who's got these things on his property. Okay, he's got, just cutting to the chase, he's got a family. He's in Tennessee, but he's got a family of, we think, 3 for sure, mother and 2 kids, probably males. And then there's an elder that's around because he's seen that one. But they're at the back of his property, and he has some stations back and behind his property where he puts some different toys and things out, and sometimes fruit, and they come and they interact. But they interact a lot by leaving glyphs on the ground. And
by leaving what? By leaving what?
These glyphs on the ground.
Glyphs. Okay.
Yeah. And he'll get a star-shaped one, or he'll get an F-shaped one with some rocks in the pocket, or one where there's 3 sticks. But you can see where they've broken the sticks, and they peel the bark off, and then they lay these things down. And they'll do it after he leaves something, almost as much as to communicating something. Why would they form 3 symmetrically like-sided sticks into a triangle right under a food station that he has, unless it has a meaning? And they do this, and we don't. I don't know what all of it means. So that's a case where they're trying to communicate with us. But I don't believe that all the stick structures out in the woods, some of them are enormous, but that they all have meaning for us.
Right. I agree with you. It doesn't seem like because they don't. It's not important. They're more or less. This is their habitat, and they're sharing with each other information, not with us.
Right.
And
Right.
When you went and you've attended some of these conventions, have you had? I mentioned early on. Did you hear anything in this last one? You went to so many. Did you hear anything in relation to something that's come out or is everything pretty much consistent? You know, it's not like there's any big surprises. I mean, obviously everyone has their own stories relating to sightings or encounters, but is there anything new that you found out about? I guess I'm going to call them a species.
Well, there's a lot of what you get at these now. You know, the speakers they'll present and or talk about either research that they're undertaking now. You know, there's a group that's committed to trying to get a body. You know, the Woody Conservancy there. You know, they talk about that. So they'll talk about their research and how that's where they're trying to go. You get other.
Did you say to try to get a body?
Yeah, I mean, they're committed to, they're going to harvest one of these things.
What?
And prove that they exist. So you hear that kind of thing. So there are groups that will talk about their research. Other folks that are speakers will talk about different stories or research they've had over the years. Kentucky is a very active area, so Charlie Raymond, who's in Kentucky, runs a lot of things he's part of. He's got a group in Kentucky. He speaks for a lot of these things now, and he'll talk about different stories and research around the state over time, and you learn from those.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can learn from the observations or the witness accounts.
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of things. Again, I think a lot of what's going on with this now, because let's face it, there's been a lot of footprints cast on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of audio recordings, howls, all kinds of things about whoops, whistles, howls. There's been a lot of that recorded.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of blurry pictures, and there are pieces of footage of these things moving here and there. But there seems to be a lot of discussion. A lot of it right now is about furthering getting better research, or number two, the behavioral characteristics of these things, what they do. It's not so much about do they exist or don't they exist anymore.
Right.
It's changing. Yeah,
right.
It's changing. So like you and I are talking now about behavior and characteristics and capabilities of these things, as opposed to do you think it exists? And that's where this was a few years ago. It's not anymore.
Mm.
It's changed.
Well, it's all very exciting to me, and I am so grateful that you joined us today. Is there anything that you'd like to share with us upcoming that people would, should know that you're involved in, or any way that they can find out more? I know that there's the BFRO. Is it BFROnet.net?
Yes. Yeah.
.net, that they can look up reports and see where there's encounters. But personally, is there anything upcoming that you're excited about that's in the future?
Yeah, there is. So I can tell you about a couple things, and then if you remember me a question, I got to ask you. But so Western, there's a big one of the bigger ones, Western North Carolina, Bigfoot event, which is coming up in third week of September. That's big, and that's the whole town of Marion. I'm speaking at that one, and people come from all over the South for that. That's a very big event, and I'm looking to see where it is. I think it's September 17th and 18th. That's the big one, and it's a good one. And then CrypticCon was supposed to happen last year. That's not just Bigfoot. That's all kinds of things. CrypticCon is something that's worth noting, and that's November 19th, 20th, 21st, that weekend. That's in Lexington, Kentucky. That's a big one.
Nice.
So that one, UFOs, ghosts, a little bit. They talk about a lot of different things. CrypticCon's one of the first ones to do that. There's a cryptozoology museum up there in that area, and so some of the folks that are part of that put this on. That's a great event. So people can come from all over. You can get there for that, from the Midwest, Northeast, South, within half a day. So that's a great one. So those are a couple of things I would, tell people to take a look at, look online, and see what they're all about. But I had a question. I know I listened to some of your podcasts and some things. You talk a lot about, light, power, energy of light, and that sort of thing. And, the orbs and the whole orb phenomena shows up in various ways, capacities, whether it be with spirits or ghosts. But the Bigfoot thing, I've experienced the orb phenomena numerous times around these. I've got some thoughts about what it is relative to Bigfoot, but I would just wonder what you think about that. It's some manifestation of energy. We're not doing it. If they're doing it and deploying it somehow, how did they do that?
Well, I would have to say, first of all, like you used the word, to manifest it, to be able to manifest something where it turns in, it's matter and you can see it, or it's some form of energy, that's powerful that they can do that. It seems to fall under the paranormal, like what we spoke about, and something that we actually, it might be something that our eyes aren't trained to see, or where it's really coming from, because we don't see things that same way. Our senses don't touch. They might actually be around all the time, but it's when they're present, it's more visible. There might be angel orbs all around in another dimension right now. Unless you're a higher consciousness, like a multi-dimensional being, which I think that what I'm finding out and hearing about some of these alien types, or the Bigfoot, there's some crossovers, like I said, about light, and I don't know. Your question is basically, where is it coming from, right?
Yeah, and it's not always there, but sometimes it is there, and sometimes it seems to be observing us. So, we could be in a situation where they're around, we know they're around, they're above us, we're on a trail in the woods somewhere, and they've got the high ground, there's a ravine below us and one above, and then we know they're there, we can hear them moving, then things get quiet all of a sudden, and you look and the canopy and the trees is lit up, and there's a cue ball colored orb moves across above us for several seconds. Or I was with a large group once in northern Wisconsin years ago, in a granite quarry area, and we were all sitting and observing. There was some movement above on one of the walls above us, but it was a big area, and one of these things, I watched it behind the group come out of the woods, circle all around the group from behind. Nobody saw it. I always looked the other way. But came out and went, circled all around us like it was watching us to see what we were doing. So how does this happen? We were having activity, but it always seems like when there's Bigfoot activity, that's the time when one of these orbs or more show up. So
it's amazing that you can see them with your eye, because I've seen the orbs if I have a camera, because it somehow catches in the phone camera, but I can't see it with my own eyes. But it's around, and it's been around either certain people, so they're traveling around with the Bigfoot, possibly, and maybe it's a time and space. It's dimensional. It's but for you to visibly see it is amazing. Like with your eyes, the human eye, it falls under, like, we just don't know. It's like the mysteries of the universe, but it's positive. If it's a light orb, that's positive. So that doesn't mean that they're aggressive. I mean, I feel like it's more a sign of like goodness and light. It's not a sign of anything dark for them to have orbs around them.
Yeah, and I can't say that any time that I've observed them or been in a group we've observed that it was negative. But it does seem that purpose, like they're able to use it for purpose to observe. Comes to mind, almost like they deployed it to go around the bend and look at what's there, like a periscope or something crazy. But
really,
not multiples, more single, but not fleeting glimpse, not a mineral light or anything like that. This is a real orb, and it's come above a canyon wall, and it's floating around up there looking at you, and we know we're having activity from them, behind us in the woods kind of thing. So it's crazy. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, definitely more than once. And I said manifestation. I think they're somehow deploying it, gathering energy and using it for a purpose, and maybe to help them see, like I said, around the corner, around the bend, or down a valley or whatever. But it's great. It happens. And it happens with some frequency. I've observed it, and it's not a singular thing. Half a dozen times
I lost you.
Yeah, I said I've observed it, at least half a dozen times.
So, are you just standing there watching this and shocked that it's real?
Yes.
Like, you can't believe it. And have you been alone when this has happened, or there have been other individuals with you?
Always. There's always been other people.
Wow, that's something to walk away with, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, when I've encountered orbs, it's been, for myself, it was multiple. There was, I saw 50 at a time. It wasn't just one, and they were traveling all different speeds, all different sizes, and there was a few main colored ones, like I saw a blue one and a purple colored one, but the rest looked like very clear light, but the outline, but you could see it, but they traveled all different, and they turned different ways. It was really strange. So that's been my personal encounter. And then I've heard of orbs. I mean, I've seen videos with orbs around certain people, but not one singularly that's kind of, like you said, just seems like watching or observing.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to take down information.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah.
It's so funny.
Anyway, a puzzle on that one.
Oh my gosh, I'm happy you shared that story. I like no, because I've never heard that, and how would we ever hear anything like that unless we on our own happen to fall into that situation one particular time?
Yeah.
Now, how many times would you say that you've had I say sighting, because we have the A, B, and C interactions. So what is the can you just explain for quickly, or because I know I already said okay, wrapping it up, but I kind of want to know what the ABC is.
So the BFR will say the class A is you're looking at it, the eyes register and see a creature or being, definitely is not a human or a bear or an animal. So that's what class A is. It's right there. You can see it, and make out expressions in the face, anatomy, everything. So that's what an A is. B is a step off of that. It's evidence, such as a footprint you cast, an audio you recorded when they were around. It's definite evidence or multiples of evidence without necessarily, maybe a fleeting glimpse, but not a registering, a visual. And C is more anecdotal stories, newspaper article, that kind of thing, where it's passes. Information is passed on, which in most cases, a lot of cases are true, but it hasn't been confirmed 100% yet. So that's pretty much the way that we do that. But to your question on the orbs, I've seen these in different states. They show up all of a sudden in the woods sometimes when these things are around. Last one I saw was in Smokies with a group, 4 of us on a hill. That we had some activity around us. It was dark, and I observed it. 2 of us observed right away. One of the guys, we always take different directions when we stand, so northeast, southwest kind of thing when we're in the woods, so we don't all look at each other. And one of the guys standing to my east, he saw the canopy of trees light up. He was like, "Why are the trees lighting up above?" And I turned and looked, and I watched for 5 seconds the orb come down the ravine next to us, and it just was like it was maneuvering, like that purpose, came right down, moving around through the woods down from above, almost like it came over the top of the hill, was coming down to look at us. So I've seen them. I was with a group that observed one. They said 28 seconds. They timed it, and it kept a high ground above them as they walked on a trail and moved along like it was following. I could could tell you story after story of these things, but they always seem to be. It's curious you said blue. They always seem to be, like an old headlamp color, not like LED with a bluish, more like a warm color, cue ball or warm color.
Fascinating. Wait, you just mentioned the A, B, and C. Have you ever eyeball to eyeball looked at a Bigfoot?
Yes. So, I've had what I would call 3 Class A encounters because I clearly knew that's what it was. I've had a number of B-type encounters, and B and C become commonplace. You investigate these things, you hear about the B and C type things all the time too. But I've seen them.
So when you saw this Bigfoot, you looked at it in its eye. How can you describe it to us? What you saw?
Sure, I'll describe. Yeah, I'll describe one of them anyway. The one I saw in Colorado was black, about 6.5 feet tall, and no neck, arms down, hands down to the knees, arms very muscular, face was flat, black. Those feet, the mouth was straight across. It wasn't smiling or anything, and you couldn't see any white in the eyes. The eyes were just dark, dark, dark. And so the whole face was dark, but there wasn't hair on the face. Mm-hmm. There was hair on the head, but not on the face. The face was more, it was dark skin, but it was the creature was black. Mm-hmm. The arms, legs were black. Hair wasn't long, and it was kind of stepping and bobbing from side to side, like it had been spied on, kind of been seen, and it got caught. And there were 2 of us that saw it, and we remarked about it the next day that it was kind of hesitant to go, like, I've been seen, and it was standing in the middle of the trail, went back and forth from side to side, and then finally took off. But it was a juvenile, but for sure, we went back and estimated we saw it at about 90 feet, so 30 yards.
Was it terrifying?
No, that one was not. That was exhilarating. We left after a little while. We were half a mile to get back to the trailhead and get out. It was in a canyon in northeast Colorado. We were exhilarated. Next day we went back to the spot for more evidence to look and kind of measure out where it was and everything. But no, I was not terrified at that one at all.
Wow. And then that was a child. You're saying it was 6 feet tall and a child?
Yeah, 6.5. I think, and I would say, male, juvenile. Anatomically, it was hard to see anything more from 90 feet. It was duskish kind of thing, but I clearly knew what it was. I mean, it was not a bear or anything. When you could see bipedal, see it standing there. Mm-hmm. See the arms, the legs, the facial features there, you know clearly what it is. So, but not 8-9 foot tall kind of thing, 6.5 feet tall.
Did you see a 9 foot tall Bigfoot?
Yeah, I was with a group of 5 people, and 3 of us saw it come down a ravine above us, and that was in the western part of Virginia in the Appalachian Mountains, 2018, and that was massive. It was so big, and that was scary. We were all scared, but it was huge.
Wow.
So
amazing.
So they're not all fight or flight. They're not all happy times either. It depends on the situation. But no, I've had enough visual encounters of these things. I know they're real. So I'm beyond. God, I gotta see one, kind of thing. I know it's real.
Right.
I'm more interested in this, behaviors and what it does, how it interacts, characteristics of it. That's still the gift that keeps giving for me.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you sharing and being so honest with us about, your experiences. And since we cannot ourselves have them, I appreciate you. And it's exciting. And thank you so much. Now, you have your site for on your Etsy page, which is I Know Squatch. And I'll put that in the chat. And is there any other way people can reach out to you? They can get your field guide on the Etsy page. Is it sold anywhere else?
We'll have it at different shows and things that we'll be at. So we'll be at Western North Carolina. There's one in South Carolina coming up, Westminster Bigfoot Bigfoot show. That's in October. November, Crypticon will be at the Etsy site. We got a lot of new designs, shirts and hats, things to do this year. We've got a whoop shirt and a whoop hat that are really kind of fun. People like those. And we've got some new designs of the Bigfoot also, striding, if you will. So we, historically we had it peeking around a tree, which is what people report the most. But we've also got it moving. We've tried to animate it a bit more. So when we do all our own original designs, everything we have, and I know Squatch is all our own designs, and we try to keep it fresh and new all the time, do merchandise and stuff. But we're committed to depicting it and showing it in ways that people see it. But do our own things too, our own original type of artwork. So, yeah, check out the Etsy store.
I love it. Actually, the artwork. Wait,
we're on Facebook and Twitter too.
Oh, okay. You are on Facebook and Twitter, and then
Instagram.
And Instagram, I know. And now, is there any way people can reach out to you? Are you open to that? How would they reach out to you? Yeah,
I am. And I get a lot of people who send me different pictures of what they think are stick structures too. So RRR, 3 R's, Whoop, WHOOP.
WHOOP.
At gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Okay, great. Great. Thank you. This was amazing, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing with us, and I'll be excited if you ever come back again to hear more about Bigfoot.
Well, I appreciate your insights, your thoughts on the orbs and that type of energy too. That's helpful for me.
I'm guessing. I mean, it's so limited. I guess I would feel something. But like you said, you kind of seems like you've done your own analyzing about what it is, which is that they're watching you.
Yeah, and I'm speculating, but I would say a common thought when that happens is that it's there for a purpose, and it's trying to figure out what we're doing and why we're there.
Well, thank you, Rick. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and an afternoon, right. And thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you, Mary. No, I enjoyed it, and thanks for supporting I Know Squatch.
Sure, anytime. Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye.
I think I hear a storm outside. Wow, that was amazing. I never asked him directly about if he's seen one, and I don't know why. And then now I know. But we didn't get any questions today. That's okay. Moving on. That was cool. I kind of wanted to talk quickly about, maybe I'll do it at the end, about some reports of Bigfoot. But since we kind of went over the time now, we're going to move on for now. So let's move on. Let's put this over here. Okay. Now, I wanted to just mention to you, because I've had some viewers that have asked me some questions about healing and inner peace, and so I kind of wanted to touch on that and give some suggestions. So I'm going to just mention to you about possible symptoms of low vibration, because with everything that's going on right now, I have to say that it's a little overwhelming, and so sometimes we can get really stuck with that, and we don't realize how we're feeling, and we need some guidance to get out of that. And it might be that you're stuck in negativity. It might be that you really don't have any personal answers. So I'm just going to give some suggestions, because I worked as a coach, and I work as a coach, and my plan is to help and heal. So, possible symptoms of low vibration energy. So this would be an example if you're feeling a certain way. If you feel stuck, confused, stagnant, angry, sad, lonely, you're suffering and you're aggressive. And the reason why I'm saying low vibration, You hear from time to time myself and others say, well, higher vibration. And so I'm explaining to you the opposite, which would be low vibration. So you also, if you have a low vibrational energy, which means that you're walking around and you physically almost don't feel well. You either feel tired, your body have body aches. You just all around don't feel well. And it's because your mind is stuck. You're stuck. And your thoughts are looping around to old patterns and beliefs. And you might need a fresh perspective. So maybe some healing work needs to be done. Maybe you've undergone some trauma, some addictions, some obsessive behavior, or it's just that life has taken a toll. Now, some high vibrational symptoms, and the reason I'm explaining this is because then I'm going to give you some steps to come out of it, to pull out of it. So some high vibrational systems would mean that your third eye opens. In other words, you have an awakening. You say, oh, I'm so much more aware. Oh, I see things from another perspective. It's not that you're constantly going back to an old belief system that you have kept your whole life and it's not working for you, because to transform and to grow and to move with life, you have to let go. Maybe you have too much attachment to the past. So high vibrational systems, again, I will say, as your third eye opens, you have an awakening. You're awakened. You are conscious and aware that we are all one. So I say to you that I care about you, and your pain is my pain and my pain is yours, because we are all connected. And I want you to feel better, and I want you to have light and love. Some more high vibrational symptoms would be you have increased telepathy, intuition, more synchronicity happens into your life. You feel loved and loving. You feel like you would like to give others love. You feel peaceful, and you have a bigger intention about there being a better world out there. You're not just thinking about yourself anymore. And that's a high vibration, because you've let go of anything negative, which is a low vibration, and you're having an open mind, open heart. So let's not be left behind by a decreased low vibrational pull. Let's have 66 days to serenity and inner peace. So like attracts like. We are a human being. Now this is my body, my vessel. There's my inner spirit and my soul that's running through me, and that's what really matters. The spirit craves serenity and peace. So let's go through a few steps. I'll walk you through them, and you can either jot them down or look at this later. So let's start with what would be the first thing that would be important to let go of the past, to have a higher vibration, would be your breathing. So we want to relax our bodies. We want to focus on our breath so that we are inviting new energy into ourselves, and we're letting go of the past. So you want to be conscious of your breath, which means that you're relaxing your body from the top of your head to the tip of your toes, and you're just focused on your breath. That's what you're going to do. So you're going to close your eyes, you're going to relax, be in a relaxed position, and you're just going to be thinking about your breath. You're breathing in and you're breathing out. That's the first step. The second step would be for you to be conscious of loving yourself, self-love. letting go of shame, letting go of pain, and loving yourself, connecting to your heart, and saying, I love myself, speaking out loud if you need to, looking in a mirror, I love you, I accept you. That would be step 2. And setting personal boundaries, knowing that there is an invisible line around you that no one can cross over unless you allow them to. And if someone comes into your space, you have to say, step back. You're in my personal space. Now, if you imagine this line around you, it's about, I would say, a foot from you, no more. Without even realizing, people will not come into your space. And if they do, you will not feel bad about telling them to step out. And if you need that space to protect yourself or to heal yourself, then you're allowed to have that personal space. Now, this is emotionally and physically. So you can physically say, get out of my space or leave my space. And you can emotionally say, if someone's either verbally talking to you that you feel like you need room, you have to say, this is not okay right now. I need space. You can define it. I suggest you define it, because people sometimes are surprised when we tell them this is too much. If they are attached to you, and if you're too direct, it can hurt someone's feelings. So you just say, you know what, right now I need my space. The next I would say is to let go of anything that's bothering you. Either you write it down, you can have a rant book, you write it down. You can speak it out loud, but let it out of your system and not on someone else. That's not fair. Let it out of your system, whatever it is. If you have anger, if you're mad about something, if you're fearful, there's a lot of fear right now in the world. People have a lot of fear about what if. I say live in the present moment. What's going on right now? In this moment, well, I'm doing this stream right now. So I'm not worried about anything past this moment. I'm right here. Let go of fear. If you have some fear, identify what the fear is and get through it. Get over it. If you have some sadness, why do you have sadness? Emotions are a symptom of something that's happened from the past or something that's happening right now, right? So if you identify them, now if you have one of these negative emotions, either fear, anger, sadness, or you have shame, some shame over something, that's fine. That's entirely normal. It's when those emotions stick around too long, then they physically bother you. You end up getting illnesses from that. You end up responding inappropriately to people, taking out your frustration on someone else that has nothing to do with your issues. So we want to let go of negative emotions. And that might take some time. This is healing work. This is clearing your system so that you can have a higher vibration. Now, after we've done this, we've released these emotions. Like I said, you either let them go verbally. I always say go to a body of water. Speak it out. You might weep a little. That's normal. You want to replace the negative emotions with positive emotions. You want to think of light. That's why I speak of light. Forgiveness, love, compassion. Now, after you've done this, you can start to have self-love and love in your heart, compassion and kindness. You might want to share it with others. Now, to get there, you want to let go of anything that's stopping you from your own self, whatever your passions are, whatever your purpose is in life. You might become interested in a bigger purpose that's towards humanity. That might become important to you. So you want to let go of anything that's from the past that's from others' beliefs and have your own. Live in your heart. Now let me remind you, personal transformation does not require the opinions of friends, families, and colleagues. It's your journey. So now that you have compassion for yourself and for others, you will learn some new lessons of gratitude and hope. You will see things that you have never seen before, having a higher vibration. You will become more aware and conscious. You might start to dream differently. You might start to see things from a new perspective. You are now acknowledging an awareness of stillness and peace in your heart. You're able to have peace in your heart. Even in dark situations, you can be standing from a perspective above rather than you're in it. You can quickly overcome things. You will have a rebirth, and this is an ascension to a higher vibration, the grand awakening, a higher consciousness, and you are a multi-dimensional being of light. So I tend to do some mental exercises if I have issues. If things start to become overwhelming to me, I quickly go to one of my mental exercises, which is a visualization, which I'm going to share with you, or it could be that I look either to a sunrise, I visualize like I am right now, light on the horizon, which is beyond our sight. So I literally visualize in my mind water with the horizon, the sun rising up over the horizon, oranges and red sky, and the light, because it touches my soul. And since I've been to so many sunrises, I can quickly imagine that, and that will help me. There's other ways, which I'll share with you at another time, to connect to your own light, to a light source. So activating our unconscious source of light begins the grand awakening. So let's do a quick visualization so you know what that's like. Visualizations with Mary Amy. We will create vivid mental images in our mind's eye, bringing positive emotions such as joy, happiness, and hope. Blessings. Our intention today is to clear away negative thoughts with a ball of glowing light. Let's realizing connecting to your mind, body, spirit to divine light will shed darkness in yourself and unblock your true purpose and potential. Your ball of glowing light visualization begins now. Please find a quiet space, sit or lay down comfortably. Now together we're going to close our eyes and we're going to inhale and exhale 3 times. I'd like you to relax your body from the top of your head, your crown chakra, to the tip of your toes. So let's breathe out old energy and deeply breathe 3 times. Now I'd like you to scan your body for stress or tension. And I'd like you to be aware of your breath. Concentrate on your breath and release any stress that you have in your body. Our intention today is to release negative emotions preventing us from our personal happiness. Now that you're relaxed, I'd like you to imagine in front of you a bright, glowing light in the distance. The ball of light is bold and powerful and energetic. And as the ball of light travels to you, all of the past nuances in your life begin to depart your system, and you can feel them leave. And as they leave, you accept that. And you know that this is good for you, and that the light is here to protect you. And as this positive light covers your body, you feel safe and warm and secure. And you know that no one may harm you. The glowing, powerful ball of light reaches beyond your head and below your feet. It remains surrounding your body, filling your bones, your flesh, your organs, and touching every soul in your body. And you give permission to this glowing light to fill your cells with positive light and energy. You breathe out any pain and anger and sadness or fear that you're holding on to. And you speak of the negativity if necessary. You let it out so that you have more room for love. Your heart grows bigger and a new awareness of calm enters your being. And you feel more light, you feel more content, and more at peace. You surrender to this light, this beautiful glowing ball of light. And you know that you have abundance coming and hope, and your truest potential is ready to emerge. I'd like you to stay in this moment of calmness and peace and serenity. And I will count backwards to 3, and you will open your eyes. 3, 2, 1. Thank you for joining us. Now, I've spoken of what a channeler does. A channeler is a person who conveys thoughts of energy from a source believed to be outside the person's body or conscious mind, an interpreter, and they allow themselves to sense the nonverbal communication from another being. And as you work towards having a higher vibration, you too will become a channeler, because you will be seeing and hearing energies and light and beings from other realms, from a higher dimension, and you too will become a channeler. So I'd like to touch on angels quickly before we go on to alien encounters. And of course, here's my beautiful painting of angels that I love, as you can see right here. And we have to hail to the angels. Dancing Sun, Angels Dancing Sun by Giovanni Di Paolo, an Italian painter, which I love. And I want to just say that angels come from a higher consciousness, and overall 81% of people believe in angels, and 77% of Americans believe in angels. And as you can see right here, there are tens of thousands of angels that surround us in the millions, and you can ask for angels to come into your life, and I recommend that. Just like I say to ask for light to come into your life, come into your heart, break through. Now, I spoke about an ascension, and I spoke about a higher consciousness. Now, an ascension is different from spiritual growth, which is about tuning into spiritual realms beyond the physical, where ascension is about consciously choosing to evolve, and by becoming more love and light filled by the moving into a higher vibrational dimension. And that's what we're trying to do, is to have more light in our lives, more happiness, to be more fulfilled, bring serenity, and that's what I'm here for, to help and heal, and to be here for you and tell you that I love you and I want things to be better for you. And if not that, we talk about aliens and Bigfoot and other beings, other dimensional beings. Okay, that is, yeah. So alien encounters and communications. A June 2019 poll found that 49% of Americans believe there are people somewhat like ourselves living on other planets. A much larger percentage, 75%, said that life of some form exists elsewhere in the universe. Now, a 2019 Insider poll, one out of every 5 believe aliens visited Earth. A 2012 National Geographic poll said 36% of Americans, about 80 million people, believe UFOs exist, and a tenth believe they've spotted one. So what is alien contact? Alien contact may be a radio signal, which I've discussed. I've mentioned that. There's different organizations that were formed within the government about radio signals. And they might be displayed with numerals, number patterns. Maybe it's a spacecraft encounter or a telepathic message that someone's received. The impact of extraterrestrial contact depends fully on the message and humanity's response. Hypothetically, contact could affect human civilizations based on alien technology advancement and the degree of benevolence or aggression towards humanity. I've spoken about starseeds, which are considered aliens. And some of the aliens that I've spoken about are the Andromedans, which are violet or blue. And then also, here's one of the organizations, METI, was messaging to extraterrestrial intelligence. So they're sending messages to different planets or stars. Here's an example of an alien that is known, and that is called they were called the Little Spacemen. And this came from an alien encounter that was in the United States. And so they came up with the terminology. I always say it's an original event. These little green men. And then you heard about little green men in movies and literature. And so their eyes seem to be like saucers, oversized space, 6 inches apart, skin texture neither smooth or wrinkled, a mouth a thin line, and a body long and extended almost to the ground, slightly tapered. And this looks like what one of them would look like. So the story of spaceship 12 little men probed today. And that was in the newspaper. This is basically, so I'm reading from a newspaper from 2009, August 18th. And this man had a UFO sighting, and he claims extraterrestrials haunt and chase him. It was just, and his name is Stan Romanek. He says he encountered his first UFO at the outskirts of Denver almost 8 years ago. It was just after dark, and I looked up and there was this big red, blue looking UFO. He said that in 2009, a video camera caught a shaky bright light in the sky. Others in the park that same night say they witnessed it too, and the video made it into the local news. But that was only the beginning. He belongs to a growing community of believers who said they have been personally touched by extraterrestrials. He says that he's been abducted by other forms of life. What are they? I couldn't tell you. Are they from a different planet? I can't tell you. I know they're not human. Whatever they are, he's told ABC News, but as far as I'm concerned, they're not from here. He captured the alleged sightings of extraterrestrials on video and showed primetime the evidence of the contact with extraterrestrials. Interesting. And this is from The Sun, June 14th, 2020. Alien contact could ultimately end life on Earth, and we shouldn't seek to communicate with them as it risks endangering mankind. According to experts, their fears come after it was revealed NASA is now actively investigating UFOs, and as a bombshell UFO intelligence report is poised not to rule out the existence of alien life. The startling clips which made headlines around the world include objects flying at speeds and directions not possible for human-made flight. Chances are we all should be grateful that we don't have any evidence of contact with alien civilizations. Attempting to communicate with extraterrestrials, if they do exist, could be extremely dangerous for us. We need to figure out whether it's wise or safe. I guess whether or not it's a threat to us, right? Whether extraterrestrials are a threat to us. Now here is a diagram from NASA's SETI, S-E-T-I, which is also a government organization, and radio telescopes. So radio telescopes send messages, and these are all the locations. Okay, moving on, before we go, I want to touch on star child, a star child. So a star child meaning are gifted human beings with unique abilities, and their mission on Earth sets them apart from the rest. A star child's role is to actively take part in transitioning the world into a new existence. As change makers on the forefront, the star child paves ways for humankind to thrive. They assist in raising human frequency, which is pivotal to the development of humanity. So these are some examples and some diagrams. So this is actually allegedly a star child skull. It's a 900-old human-like bone skull with distinctively non-human characteristics. It was unearthed in a mine tunnel near Mexico Cooper Canyon around 1930. The Star Child Project is an informal research group that has coordinated numerous scientific investigations since its founding in February 1999. And this is what they say that it would look like if the skull was actually visible now, like the person's skull. And this is actually looks like an illustration of what a star child would look like. It is estimated that the star child has been incarnating on Earth for over 100 years. The first wave of star children on their planet was tracked as early as 1970s. From the 1970s, the star children have come in 3 generations, namely indigo children, which you've probably heard of in the past, crystal children, and rainbow children. Indigo parents have crystal children, whereas rainbow children are born to crystal parents, inasmuch as indigo children. Crystal children and rainbow children possess similar special abilities and traits. Now, I heard for a long time that star children were very gifted, they were proteges, and they had abilities of, they were intuitive, they were telepathic, they could communicate obviously without speaking, they might have incredible skills with music or art or in the arts generally. Maybe writing, singing, something like that. Well, before we go, I'd like to share a poem. Butterflies, Sunshine, and Angels. Light reaches out to me if I forget. Light touches me in my dreams, or maybe in a song, or in nature. I want to remind you that sacred knowledge, light, nature, and dreams, connecting to a light source, whether it's in your heart, you touch on the light that's in your heart, or in nature, maybe at a sunrise or a sunset, and allowing nature to touch your spirit and soul. Nature, the phenomenon of the physical world, collectively including plants, animals, the landscape, and other features and products of the earth. Everything in it, such as plants, the mountains, the oceans, the stars, and dreams. Jotting down your dreams when you wake up in the morning. Your dreams will guide you to your ultimate destiny. Dreams are the universal experience that can be described as a state of consciousness characterized by sensory, cognitive, and emotional occurrences during sleep. Now, everything you say, think, and do designs your future. Fear, negative thoughts will become darkness in your life, attracting unhappiness in people, places, and career. Let's create only positive thoughts. Thoughts are powerful. Thank you for joining us today. You can find me on MaryAmyOfficial.com, Instagram, Facebook, my YouTube. This stream will be up for 2 weeks, and then I will upload it to my YouTube channel. You can find me on MaryAmyOfficial.com. This is Signs of Light on TwitchTV. My blessings to you in honor of my Scottish grandmother Lucille. Lang me your lum reek, which means good luck. I wish you good luck. I wish you good luck and good fortune. I'm tongue-tied. I'm going to say that over. In honor of my Scottish grandmother Lucille, Lang me your lum reek, which means I wish you good luck and good fortune in the future. Be well, and I'm sending you light and love, and I'll see you Monday next week, and hopefully I'll have a guest. I know I have some guests coming up, which I will announce, and I will put it on my schedule for the streams. Be well. Bye.